Right, so now you can just take probably 180, I think is not a bad place to start. And just again keep it quite localised and then just cut it back. Just cut some back like that and just get it all cut nicely back down. We're just trying to make sure we cut that crack out the paint so that it can't come back as the bonnet's opening and shutting and stuff. Okay, so we've now removed the bonnet and brought it inside to be painted. I have just been talking to absolutely nobody because I didn't press record on the camera after getting set up. So I've just done the etch. I've just been talking about the etch primer to absolutely nobody. But first coat you want on, just in your areas where your repairs were, is etch primer. You need to think of this as your sort of glue. This is the glue primer that helps the bond to the panel, particularly of your repairs. And then there's going to be another coat of the top coat primer that's going to go on over this. So you don't need to go mad with this, but you do need to use it. Don't do any body repairs without etch. Not a lot of drying time on this because we actually want to put, but we don't want to put a lot on either for that reason. And then when we put the top coat primer on, we want it to actually become, to sort of blend into this primer and create a real nice bond for that first coat. And then all your coats on top of that are just on top of the normal primer, but it's very well bonded to your panel. Which people will now think that I'm crazy if they can hear me talking, because I've already had this conversation just to absolutely no one because I didn't turn the camera on. So yeah, we're not going mad, just not a dust coat as such, but just more than a dust coat, just to give it that nice bonding properties. And then when we put the other primer on, it'll all be nicely bonded. So the drying time on that now is going to be as long as it takes me to make sure this gun's clean. Get some paint mixed up and run a bit of thinners through this, make sure it's all doing what it's supposed to properly, and then we will get some other primer mixed up and get that on. Right, we're all mixed up with the top coat primer now, masked on, and then we're going to just get some primer over this. Bit spitty when it first started, but it won't be a problem. Covered it over mostly with the next bit that I put on, and then we'll flat it all back and see what we've got. A touch more on there. Right, see once it's dry. So we've had a bit of drying time now. Just going to give it a wet flat now. I'm using some really old 320, which is a bit heavy. It's a bit new bought because it's very well used before. It will be fine because we are going to prime another coat of primer. I just want to get rid of all the spitty bits that it did when I first fired the gun up. So, no pressure, very light, just get everything nice and uniform again. Flatted back now. To be honest with you, I could probably get away with this. I could probably flat further and start putting top coat on, but we've mixed up more primer, so we're going to use it. And I'm just going to put the second coat on that we were expecting to anyway. Do things right and make sure everything is well covered. Can't find my hairdryer, so I'm on the hot air gun from a distance just to try and get the panel nice and dry again. Panel wipe again. Mask back on. Right, that's another coat on, gun nice and clean, let that to dry, and I'll come back and flat it, and then we'll be ready for top coat. Right, that coat of primer is now dry. It laid on really nice. So we are going straight to some 1200 grit now. If I'd have done all 3 coats without cutting it back a bit before, I would maybe have started with 800 here, just for the initial coat, because I know it's only the final coat. We had a few little blobs to get rid of, because I know it's only 1 coat going on. We're just going to go straight in with 12. Get it all nicely flied back, and we can get some base coat and clear on it. I won't make you watch the whole flattening process, so I'll bring you back in when I'm towards the end of finished flattening it. We'll go from there. Right, so we've got most of it flattened now. Be careful over the edges, they sand very quickly, so you're just trying to take the top off and make sure that there's nothing, just like it's nice and smooth. Right, so now we're taking a piece of wet, used red scotch, not ridiculously used, but still not quite as sharp as it would have been when it was fresh. This is the last time we can touch it with anything like scotch because it's a metallic paint, so you can't do any little repair thing or anything and just re-scotch it and try and cover it over, because you start disturbing the metallics and pulling out some of the colours from the paint. So this is the last time we can touch it with anything like this. Right, let's put some base coat mixed up. Right then, so we've got it all flied, panel white, paints mixed up. Let's get some base coat down. Mask on. Right, so we've now had a good half coat, so not too thick. Then we've had a good full coat, and now we're going to finish with another half coat, like a dust coat, because it's a metallic, and that's going to help the metallic really just stand up. And then we'll be ready for clear. Right, that's now all looking pretty good. So I'll get the gun cleaned out, get some clear mixed up, and we'll start getting it clear coated. Right, it's now time to get some clear coat on it. Let's hope this goes well first time. Okay, so that actually laid down pretty nice. I did put 10% thinner in it to thin it down and make sure we got a nice, so it laid out nice. But literally halfway through painting that, the wind direction changed and it blew crap. I watched it straight come off the top of that door. So we got a bit of shit landed in it, which you would expect to have anyway, but that was a little bit more than I would expect after that gust of wind. So If I manage to get that nice and flat and it'll polish, we may stick at that. If not, we will flat all that back perfect without cutting through the lacquer, that's important. And then we'll scuff it and we'll put another coat of clear on tomorrow. But I'm annoyed because that actually laid down pretty well, and then it's just a gust of wind just coated it in just little bits of crap. But a lot of it will flatten polish really easily. If there's anything I'm not happy with, we'll have to scuff it and re-clear. But yeah, could have gone worse. And when you do these garage ones, particularly on a really hot day like this where you can't close everything off, and you're going to have wind, air movement, you expect some stuff to land in it. That was a bit more than what I expected, but we'll see how that looks tomorrow when I can flat and polish it. Not too bad. Right, so it's now the next day. It's all cured up. We're now going to flat it and then polish it. We're starting with some just 1200 grit. It's actually a bit that I used yesterday, where I'm just going to go by hand and get rid of all the bits of shit that have dropped into it. There's absolutely nothing else, no imperfections or anything, so it should be a nice easy flattening process. Start with some 1200 grit, and then I've got the 3000 grit finishing pads that we're then going to, semi-finishing pads, that we're then going to go over it all with, and then a polish, and then I think we'll be looking good. Right, so we're all nicely flatted now with 1200 grit by hand, and this is where usually you would then probably now go 1500 grit, probably 2000 grit before you polish. And you've got one of these 3000 grit finishing pad. We can now go with an orbital. I like to use it on a soft pad, and we can just go over the whole thing with one of these, and it's going to take it from the 1200 grit to an almost semi-polished state. It's like magic. And then when you put your polisher on, it's much easier. All of these flatting, like obviously where you can see it's been flatted, all that's going to just disappear to a real nice like semi-polished finish. And then we'll hit it with the polisher, and that'll be it, job done. But these are really good. I like to use them wet, just soak them for a little bit. Soften it back up again. It's not brand new, so right, so we're all cut back now with the 3000 grit. Now we're going to hit it with a polisher, give it its first polish in here, depending on how stable this table is. And then we'll put it on the car, probably go over the surrounding areas with that 3000 grit pad, and then give it a final polish on the car, as well as the surrounding areas. Nothing bad at all. I've got to say though, my back, that's the first bonnet that I have polished since back surgery, and it did not like it. So I am going to go and have a little sit down, and then we'll get that back on the car for another, possibly another cut back, but cut back the surrounding areas and then polish it all up together. Right, the bonnet's back on the car, had its final polish. Now just to clean off. Job done.